Welcome to the Counselor Overview for Enabling Recurring Payments. We'll begin here in a patient's invoice. This patient currently has a balance of 181.46. And as we discussed with this patient, they'd like to pay over time. So what we can do in Counselor here is set up a recurring payment that will allow you to set the schedule and have the payments recur automatically. So what we're going to do is go through the typical payment process here. So we'll choose private payer. This, of course, will look specific for your own account. And then we're going to go to process the transaction. Now, I do not have a credit card machine hooked up, so I'll be keying in this transaction. So it'll look a little bit different than yours, but it's the same overall concept. Now, you'll see there's the option here, one-time payment. This is the standard method to take in the payment right now, right? The other option here is recurring payment. So we'll select that. That'll change the screen a little bit. It gives us the ability to enter the total amount. So in this case, I'm going to say we're going to collect the full amount just over time. So now we can see as soon as we entered that, it already kind of picked out a schedule because it defaulted this to 2 payments and occurring on the first day of the month. So you can see it broke it down into 2 payments here, one occurring on the 20th, the next one occurring on the 1st. But I'm going to say let's spread this out a little bit. So the patient wants to pay this over 5 payments. And instead of doing it on the 1st, we want to do this on the 15th. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pick the 15th. And then what we'll see is that this is adjusted. So the first payment occurs today. And you'll see the remainder of the payments are broken out on the 15th until the amount is fully paid. You'll also notice the initial payment covers kind of the excess, right? So it tries to break this down to even amounts based on the number of payments you've selected, but then any excess is charged right away. So that initial payment likely will be a little bit different unless you have a nice even number than would be the rest of the payments. Okay, but it gives you the ability to see this breakdown. Once again, you can keep modifying this. Okay, let's make this 6, right? And it'll modify as you go along. Okay. Now, once again, as I mentioned, you would be using your chip reader to run the transaction at this point. I'm just going to key in this transaction. So I'll press process transaction. So I'm going to put this in. This would likely be different than your workflow. But of course, if you ever need to, you certainly can key in the transaction as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a fake number there. It ran the transaction. And so what it's doing here is it's really taking 2 steps. The first step is it's running the initial transaction. So that's at 3146. So that processed today. Then it's setting up the rest of the schedule. So you can see the first one here is already processed and the rest are scheduled on the 15th of each month going forward, in this case, to 6 total payments. Okay. Now, if this ever needs to be modified, you certainly can do so. There is a little delete option here in the top right. When you click on that, that will give you the ability to see the remaining payments. So let's just say, for example, a patient came in and wanted to pay off their balance. That's fine. They can go ahead, they can make a payment, and then you go through and maybe delete all the rest of the outstanding, scheduled payments, right? Or perhaps just one if they wanted to double up on a payment or something like that. Another example would be, let's say you get partway through a schedule and then a patient's credit card expires, right? So what happened there is you would see that the payment would fail, right? And by the way, you can monitor this from the dashboard because there is a dashboard widget specifically for recurring payments. So you can see everything that's gone through. So there's the payment we had that was just processed. You can look at failed transactions, right? So none on this record right here, but this would show you right away. And this is something you can monitor obviously routinely to make sure you're catching those failed payments right away, reaching out to the patient, getting new information, right? And then taking corrective action. So in the case of this patient, we would likely go in and delete the remaining payments because we don't want that same information to fail. So we delete those. And then you could pop back in and set up a new schedule, right? So you would need to create a new schedule in that case of an expired credit card. You wouldn't be able to just update the expiration date in the system, but you create a new schedule and you get that moving forward. Once again, then the payments run on the scheduled basis. You see these payments hit the invoice like normal. And then, of course, you see the tracking here as well. So, of course, if you have any questions about how to utilize the recurring payments feature, please give us a call, email us, live chat with us. We are always happy to help. Thank you very much for joining us for the overview video on enabling recurring payments.